Hello everybody, my name is Prism and welcome into the channel. Thank you again for clicking on the video. I'm excited about this particular video because this one's a little bit different than the stuff that I usually do. I usually do gameplay videos, but I wanted to kind of just start this new thing here. So I have recently begun my resurgence with reading. It took me a really long time to get to a point where I wanted to start reading again, but I finally got to a point where I think that I am ready to start reading, and I've been doing that for the past 3 months now. And so I figured I would start a series on this channel where I basically go through all the different kinds of books I'm reading and just talk about them. Just something a little different from the normal gameplay stuff that I usually do. And this will be like a once every couple months video. This will not be like a legit like full-time series, really. It's just going to be something that I want to do here. So I'm just going to call this series Prism Talks Books. I know, that's like a weird name, but it's to the point and it works really well. And I think that this will be really good. So I'm very excited to talk a little bit about all the stuff that I'm going to be talking about here. All right, so the first book... So basically the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to do the first 3 months of reading that I've done here. So this will cover March, April, and May. And so the first book I decided to pick up this year was, I decided that I'm going to go through Agatha Christie's entire bibliography. So for those of you who don't know Agatha Christie is a really incredible mystery writer. She's kind of known to be the person that founded the mystery genre, or the modern mystery genre, I should say. So, we obviously have, Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that from classic times, but Agatha Christie is kind of known for being the person who ignited what we consider to be the modern-day mystery novel, particularly murder mysteries, because Agatha tends to write a lot about murders and, specific detectives solving them. So I've decided to start reading her entire bibliography because she was someone that I, funny enough, did a report on when I was in middle school, and I was, picking out a name for a hat, and Agatha Christie came up for me, and I remember being really intrigued by her stuff for a long time, and I've read a couple of her books, but I never really talked about, or thought about reading her whole entire bibliography until now. So I'm gonna try it out, and so far it's been really good. So the first book I picked up was, we're gonna start with Hercule Poirot, and I'm gonna go through all of his books first. And so the first one I picked up was Mysterious Affairs at Styles. This book is really incredible, and I realize now that this book, the cover, is different from all the rest of the ones that I did, so I might have to, if I want to make everything match on the bookshelf, I might have to reorder this, and that's kind of stupid, but whatever, it is what it is. So what makes this book fascinating is the fact that this is her debut novel ever, and I gotta tell you that for somebody who has never published a book before, this was one of the most incredible books I think I've read in a long time. And it makes it even more impressive to me that this was her debut novel. She really was just truly gifted, I would say, because there's so many writers out there who have written books as their debut novel, and they don't even come close to this. And I think it's really, really interesting that this one is her debut novel, because genuinely, it's incredible to me. So basically, this is the book that introduces her famous detective Hercule Poirot, who is Belgian, and speaks fluid French and English, and he has his best friend named Captain Hastings, who basically was a veteran, and now he is just kind of like almost like his like partner in crime in the sense, but Hercule Poirot always jokes about the fact that he's like really, really dumb. Even though he's not actually dumb, he's just, you know, compared to Hercule Poirot, he's dumb, but everyone's dumb compared to Hercule Poirot. It's basically set during World War I, and the story follows Hastings as he investigates the poisoning of this wealthy matriarch named Emily Inglethorpe is her name, and basically it takes place in her estate called Styles Court. That's why it's called Styles. Basically, this detective Poirot, of course, uses what he calls his little gray cells. That's like his term for like using his like, you know, his brain cells, right? Or like he really diving into the back of his head and using all of his detective skills to like really, really come across as like an important detective to people. But he unravels basically this really complex web of like family secrets and like red herrings and like just like really, really fascinating stuff. And what's even more interesting is that when the murder does occur, the murder is done in a room that is locked from the inside and all the windows are closed. So it just doesn't make any sense because the mystery takes place in a room that could not have been accessed. Or if it was accessed, it's all locked up. And so Poirot has to figure out, like, how did the killer get in and get out? Why did the killer do this? What happened? And it's such an interesting thing. It's also, obviously it's poison, right? And, you know, it was much easier to poison someone back in the day because you could just slip it into someone's drink. But now, of course, poison is not, you know, as easily accessible these days, but you could always, like, of course, you know, overdose somebody if you really wanted to these days. But he uncovers more and more complex plots throughout the whole thing, including somebody who's impersonating like a hidden will and stuff like that. And it's really cool. It's a very, very good book that I strongly recommend if you are interested in finding out the start of the mystery genre, the modern day mystery genre. You can go ahead and try this book out. It's really, really good, and I strongly recommend it. I would give this one, what did I rate this actually? Let me look on my app here. So I have an app I use called Fable, and that's what keeps track of all my stuff here. So I gave this a 5 out of 5. Yeah, I would pretty much agree with that one. I would say that this is a genuinely jaw-dropping debut novel for Agatha. I can't believe how good of a writer she was right from the beginning. So I'm really, really excited to talk more about some of the other books and to keep reading her stuff after this. I really, really recommend this book. All right, so then the second book is I was so impressed by Agatha Christie that I dove right into Poirot's second book, which is Murder on the Links. So Murder on the Links is the second book in Agatha Christie's Poirot series, and I went into this expecting there to be like the murder on like a golf course, like a person gets found in a sand trap or like something ridiculous like that. But it turns out this actually is set in northern France, and it takes place with the murder of a man who summoned Poirot because he is receiving death threats. And when Poirot gets there, he doesn't get there on time. The person's already murdered. And basically, it also features again Poirot and Hastings, so they are both together again in this one. He is stabbed on a soon-to-become golf course, so that's why it's called Murder on the Links, because he was building a golf course on his estate. And basically, it's a really interesting book because you think that you know what's about to happen and who's about to get the boot, so to speak. And then you come to realize that Agatha flips the book on her head literally 3 times in the whole book. So you think something's happening, then plot twist, plot twist, plot twist. It's crazy how cool it gets. And the first plot twist is basically that like a second body gets discovered, and it's unknown how that happened. And basically, I won't spoil it, but essentially, like, the other 2 plot twists are that, like, we think we found the murderer, and another piece of evidence points to somebody completely different. So that's really what it comes down to. I'm not gonna spoil the thing in case you wanna read it, but this book has been out for a while, so if you haven't read it, then you're like me, you're kind of catching up on this kind of stuff, right? I think the big thing that makes me interested in the most shocking thing, I guess you could say, is that the book introduces one of Poirot's biggest rivals, which is basically the inspector that goes into the case to solve this murder. Essentially, I forget his name. I think it's Soretti. Oh, no, it's Inspector Gerard. That's who it is. Or Gerard, excuse me. He's this young, really cocky detective from Paris who basically keeps on telling Poirot that he's too old and doesn't know what he's doing. And obviously, every single time, he completely blows, Gerard's mind, of course, right? So I strongly recommend this book, too, if you do like it. It wasn't as good as the first book. But that's okay. I found it's because, Agatha took like 5 years to write the first book, and then she only took like a year or so to write this one, so it makes sense that this one wouldn't be as good, but it's still a really great book, and I do strongly recommend it, again, to anybody who likes mystery books. I really think this is a good one for you. Alright, so then after that one, I read a really interesting one. I started my first horror novel. So for those of you who don't know, I'm really into horror. You've probably seen a lot of my horror stuff on my channel, right? And I thought I would start to dive into horror books, but I thought I would start light because I didn't know whether or not I wanted to actually read horror or if I just liked games, right? So I decided to pick up The Mist by Stephen King. So The Mist is a really interesting book because it's very short, as you can see here. It's called a novella for a reason, but it's only 165 pages. Yeah, 165 pages. So it's like really short. I read this in like 2 days. I mean, it was like so easy. I didn't really know if I liked Stephen King because I've tried a couple of his other books in the past. I've tried The Gunslinger, which I wasn't really a huge fan of, and then I don't even dare try to start the book It. Like, I can't believe how long that book is. But The Mist is a good place to start for me, I think, because it was a novella, and on top of that, it was a very straightforward plot. This is actually based in a real town in Maine. I've actually been to the lake that this takes place on, and I find it very interesting how he thought of this, because I've been to both. So the plot is that basically this mist engulfs this town in Maine, and the main character gets trapped in a grocery store with a bunch of different people from that town, and they have to figure out, do they get out? Do they leave? Like, what do they do? It's funny, I've been to the town and the lake specifically that was on this book and how he thought of it. And it's very interesting to see the comparison because, like, even during the daytime in completely normal weather, you will see a slight mist at the edge of the lake itself because of the temperature difference. And so I can see why when Stephen King visited this place that it would be an inspiration for a horror book, right? And I've also been to the grocery store that this one's based off of, and let me tell you, it's definitely the setting of a horror book for sure. It's run down. It's not doing well. It's bad. But the big thing for me that I love about this book is it's really a testament to the idea that, like, oh, the real monsters in this book are not the monsters, even though they're definitely there. It's the human beings in the store, right? Basically, the core plot is that, like, a violent storm lashes out the lakeside of this area called Bridgeton, Maine, is what it's called. Bridgeton, excuse me. And basically, these people get trapped after a mist rolls in and starts, like, swallowing people because monsters are inside this mist. And people have no idea why it's happening, and they have to bunker down in the grocery store. And as people try to leave, they keep getting killed. And so eventually we get to a point where, you know, the main character has to figure out, like, how do we escape? And I'm not going to tell you whether or not the main character escapes, because that's going to be something for you to figure out if you want to read it. What I really love about this book in particular is the character development and the relationships of the main character in this book. The characters are really, really rememberable in this one. And I think that, you know, Stephen King has always been really good at characters specifically and having people remember the characters. And I think that it's really, really good. There is also a movie about this book as well, if you do want to watch it. There's a movie and a TV show. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Spike TV did the TV show, which really brings back a lot of memories back when Spike was a thing. Remember when Spike was a thing? Crazy. The movie, in my opinion, is better. The movie is not... It's better than the TV show. I watched both just because I was curious. They're both not as good as the book. I don't like the book's ending. It does abruptly end, so I will warn you on that one. But the movie itself is really, really good. It has a much better ending, in my opinion. I don't know if I like it, but it's a better ending. So I do strongly recommend this if you'd like to try some horror, if you want to figure out whether or not you're into horror. Stephen King's The Mist is a really good choice for you because it's very short, very easy to read, and I really do think that it's something to at least try if you're interested, for sure. All right, and then after that, I actually don't have the book with me. I forgot it upstairs, but I read The Hidden Staircase from Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew, as you all know, has been a huge impact in my life. It's something that I grew up with, the point-and-click games. And so, you know, I never really read the books. And so I thought I would start at least dabbling in the books and seeing why everyone loves these books so much. I did read Secret of the Old Clock back a couple years ago, and it was really, really easy to read. But this one was published in 1930, and this one was very interesting. And I'm starting to find out, by the way, that the Secret of the Old Clock video game by Her Interactive is a combination of, I think, the first 4 books of the franchise, because now that I've read these books, it totally makes sense that they would not be able to make a full game out of some of this stuff. So something that I find very interesting about this book is that this is Nancy at her most rule-breaking, I guess you could say, of the first 2 novels. The first one, it was like she was kind of following the rules because she was new to this. But the second one is about her trying to figure out, basically her friend Helen Corning is looking into a mysterious happening at this place called Twin Elms, is what it's called. It's a mansion owned by Helen's elder relatives. And so what happens is they're plagued by, like, unexplained music, thumping noises, like wall sounds, these, like, disappearing objects, someone stealing stuff, and, like, you know, they think that the house is haunted, basically, which was really cool because, like, you know, I had just started reading horror, and I was like, I didn't expect this to be kind of spooky, you know what I mean? There's this man named Nathan Gomber who is their neighbors, and basically she visits his home and tries to figure out whether or not he's doing stuff to them. And so I'm going to just leave it at that. It's a very short book, very easy to read. If I say any more, the plot will be spoiled because the plot is so straightforward. But basically, she finds a hidden passageway, and then hence why it's called the Hidden Staircase. So she finds a hidden passageway, and I won't say what it's about or how it, connects to the book and how it connects to the plot and stuff like that. So go ahead and read it if you want to try. But it's a really good book. I can see why, young teenage women would love this series. I mean, it's about this really strong, powerful teenage woman who is, making her own decisions about life and trying to figure out mysteries by herself, because her father is a great detective and raising her well, right? So, it's a great story, and I strongly recommend the Nancy Drew series. I might pick up the third one sometime this summer. Who knows? We'll see. All right, and then the next one I read was Agatha Christie. We went back to her again after that, and so I took 2 books off for that one, but I did 2 short ones. And then I decided to pick up Poirot Investigates. So this is a really interesting book. I did not realize going into this that this is a collection of short stories. So if you go into this thinking that this is one mystery, you're going to be pleasantly surprised and confused like I am. Because the first one is about a jewel thief. It's called The Adventure of the Western Star. So there's 14 different short stories in this. It's still an easy read because, I think it's 230 pages. Yeah, it's really short still for a book. The Adventure of the Western Star is a book about a jewel thief. And what confused me was that Poirot solved the mystery at the end of that chapter. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Maybe Agatha's just warming us up to a case of some kind, right? But then the second one, he solved the mystery. Third one, he solved the mystery. And then I looked at the back and it says, oh, the first collection of short stories featuring Hercule Poirot. And I was like, oh, that makes more sense. So I think what makes it so cool is that I believe, if I've read correctly, this is a bunch of short stories because Agatha thought of these ideas for full books and just couldn't flesh them out into something. So she just decided to write a bunch of short stories and publish them under one book. And I don't actually know if this is this was done by her publisher, or if it was done by her editor, or if it was done by her herself, if she just decided to put some stuff out there. Basically, every story is told from the perspective of Captain Hastings again. And basically, it's a bunch of really good case files about, specifically high society people. So high society individuals, they hire Hercule Poirot because they can afford him. It's a very, very interesting book about a bunch of different scenarios that are all very, very different from each other. There's a couple of short stories that I strongly recommend, and I would say, if you want to write these down somewhere, it's The Adventure of the Western Star was a great one. The Adventure of the Egyptian Tomb was really, really interesting. I thought that was cool. I'm a huge sucker for Egyptian history. But this one was about basically kind of like a King Tut scenario where they discovered a tomb and then people are on the excavation team just start dying one by one, and they have to figure out who it is or who is killing people or if it's actually a curse, right? The case of the missing will was pretty good. The kidnapped prime minister was probably the best one. It's basically the prime minister of the UK gets kidnapped and Poirot has to figure out where the hell he kidnapped him. And then the chocolate box was a very interesting one too. Very subtle details in that one that make for a really, really great reveal at the end. I really recommend that one too. All the other ones are really good too, but those are some of the ones that I recommend the most. So, definitely pick this up if you if you want to read some more Poirot, but you don't have a lot of time. I think that you can get through a short story every now and then and just really bang them out really quickly. All right, the next book I read, I don't have a physical copy for because I got it free on Apple Books. This one is The Poacher's Son by Paul Doiron, I think is how you pronounce his last name. And this is the first installment in the Mike Bowditch mystery series. Mike Bowditch, I've never heard of Paul Doiron before this. I think this was my first time seeing it. But he did a very good job with this debut novel. Another debut novel. I thought I would try it again. Again, it was one of those things where it's like on Apple Books they do this thing where it's like, oh, the first book in a series is free. Especially if it's like a huge one, like Michael Bowditch. I think takes place over 25 different novels by Paul Doiron. So it's very interesting how he develops that plot. But I think the interesting thing about this one is that, it introduces Mike as this rookie game warden from Maine. And he navigates this beautiful but really, really treacherous and very dangerous wilderness. And, there's a bunch of parts in between the mystery versus, the parts where he's like just doing his job. And he talks a lot about like how he finds a bunch of animals in the woods and like he sees a bear that attacks him and stuff like that. And it's very interesting. It's a really good blend of like, I would say like outdoor adventure versus like psychodrama, I guess you could say. It explores a really good relationship, I think, between a person and his son. I guess you could say a father and his son, I should say. Now, the interesting thing about this particular book is that, this features Mike's father getting accused of murdering people. So, he's just doing his thing, and then a victim shows up in the middle of the woods, and the police find it and find the body specifically. And then Mike's father is accused of the killing based on a couple of different things that were planted at the crime scene. And so it basically has to do with like Mike trying to clear his father's name. And that's the whole book, is him trying to clear his father's name. And then about halfway through, a second body and a third body show up, and then it becomes more and more pointed toward his father. And it's a very, very good plot development. That it's a very good slow burn book. I really do think that Paul has a very good writing style. I don't know what his future writing style is like, or should I say current writing style, but this one was very good, I gotta say. It was very, very interesting. And particularly, Mike is a very relatable main character, I think. He's young, he's flawed, he has a passion for being a game warden, and he has a passion for his job, and his parents, particularly his father, did not support him becoming a game warden, and so he just has to deal with like these relationships with his family. And it's a very interesting book about that. It's won a lot of critical reception awards for sure. It's definitely it's one of the most realistic New England books I've ever read, for sure. The New England atmosphere is really good, considering I've been to Maine and I've seen a lot of the stuff that he describes in this book. I think it's really interesting. It's not the best book of the bunch, for sure, by any means, but it's still really good. So I do strongly recommend that if you want to try it, you can. I think it's still free on Apple Books. I think it's free forever. I don't actually know. So you're welcome to see if it is free or not. But I think that you'll really enjoy it if you choose to read it. Very, very good. All right, and then next we went back to horror again, and I decided in April to start joining book clubs because I was starting to kind of I didn't want to read straight through Agatha Christie. I really wanted to just kind of spread it out. So I really started focusing on, joining some book clubs, particularly thriller / horror / detective ones. And then I've joined one sci-fi one. So I'm in 6 book clubs right now. I am not actively reading everything from all 6 book clubs. I'm picking and choosing what I want to read and then just kind of ignoring the other ones. And so every single month, each book club refreshes with something new at the beginning of the month. So like today I'm filming this on June 1st, so I will be looking tonight at particularly which books I'll be reading for this coming month for that book club group. But this was the first one that I decided to read, and it's called My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix is her name. I have never heard of Grady Hendrix, and I read from somewhere that this is a bunch of stuff based on Reddit forums. So I don't know if that's correct or not, or if this is a Reddit forum like author, but you know, that doesn't always mean bad things. You know, like one of my favorites is Alice Osman, and she started her career drawing comic books on Tumblr, and, you know, now she's known for Heartstopper and, you know, This Winter and, like, you know, Loveless and, like, all these other books that are, like, really, really good. Grady Hendrix's book, My Best Friend's Exorcism, was interesting, for sure. I would say that it was okay. Like, it wasn't, like, the best book. I think what made me really kind of turned off by this is that I really went into this expecting there to be more horror elements in it, and it just didn't have a lot of horror in it. It was mostly just dialogue scenes, which is fine, but it was very interesting, I guess you can say. I enjoyed reading it for sure. It's about 2 best friends' relationship. Abby Rivers and Gretchen Lang are their names. And essentially, Abby and Gretchen have been friends since elementary school. And basically, their relationship changes after one night out with their other friends from high school. So the book starts with them in middle school meeting, and then it fast forwards right to them in high school. One of them begins acting increasingly strange, particularly, I'm just going to say it's Gretchen. So she goes skinny dipping in a lake next to her friend's house, and she plunges off into the lake. She disappears after she plunges off into the lake. And the interesting thing about it is that it goes disastrously wrong is the best way to describe it. She is not found until the next morning. Her friends are searching all night in the woods, and she's found in this abandoned cabin that's secluded in the middle of the woods. And after that, Gretchen starts to act weird. She starts to act like, you know, tired. She starts to act like she's not taking care of herself. And just a lot of things. She's just got some of these weird, unexplained incidences that begin targeting this social circle, essentially. It comes to basically be realized that Gretchen is possessed by a demon. And so they have to perform an exorcism for her. And I think the reason why I didn't like this book as much is because, again, the possession parts were not scary enough. They were just kind of there to create tension when needed. And, you know, it was really strange, I guess I could say. The book was very, very strange, I would say for sure. Now, this book did get adapted by Amazon. Amazon did do a movie on this book, and I strongly recommend watching the movie. The movie is much better than the book. It's one of those few scenarios where I think the movie really escalated the dark theming inside of the book and just really went a little bit further than the book did. And I really, really enjoyed the movie. I think that the movie is something that you should watch if you're interested in just like a really funny horror film that doesn't take itself seriously, but is serious when it needs to be, I guess you could say. And I would say that the other thing that kind of turns me off about it is that the book specifically has a huge 1980s nostalgia, and that's not the part that makes me upset about it. The part that makes me upset about it is that every single time they talk about the 1980s, it feels very forced. It feels like it's like, oh, 1980s slapped right in your face, and it just doesn't feel authentic. It feels like every single time is just, oh, it's another 80s reference. Oh, look, it's another 80s reference. I mean, even the fucking cover art is in the form of an old VHS tape. I mean, come on. It's just slapped right in your face from the second you look at the book. I think that, you know, if they had doubled down, if Grady had doubled down on the possession parts of the book, I think that she would have had a really solid book on her hands. But because she kind of stepped back away from it, this book is very clearly made for teenagers, like late teenagers, like young adults, and I can tell, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that, but I would say if she just doubled down a little bit more on the horror elements, it would have been a really, really good book. But instead, it's just okay, I guess you could say. You can give it a try for yourself if you want to, but I would say that it's just a 3 at best, 3 out of 5, maybe 2.5. I would say 2.5 seems a little harsh, but 3.5 is pretty good. Oh, yes, this is the one I'm most excited for. And then I read after that one, probably my favorite book, one of my favorite mystery books that I've read so far this year. I read It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. And this is a relatively new book. I found out, I actually didn't realize it was a new book, but it came out a couple of months ago. And this is just such an incredible novel. It's so good. Basically, the way that it's talking about here is that the plot is so good. It's so interesting. It's basically that Courtney Gray, who's one of the main characters in this book, essentially is vacationing on this quiet, like, resort, and you can tell by the cover. I mean, just look at it there. Oh, it's out of focus. Well, you can tell by the cover here. It's like got the cabin over here with the dock down here and stuff like that. And it's basically about they're vacationing on this lakeside cabin, and her basically with her husband Elliot, her daughter Cass, I think her brother Nolan, and her sister-in-law Emily, I think is correct. And basically it's awful. Emily and Nolan get murdered in their cabin, and it just throws you right into this book. I mean, Mary does not hold your hand. She just throws you. The first chapter is the murder. You know, the first chapter is discovering 2 bodies bloodied all over the floor. It really does give you a sense of like, oh my God, like this poor family. You know, these kids have a mother and a father who are now dead. You know, I'm not going to spoil too much of this because, you know, again, the plot is so straightforward that, like, if I say anything, it will spoil a clue. But basically, this whole thing takes place years after another girl went missing in the same emily named Kylie was her name. The reason why that's significant is because her daughter, Emily and Nolan's daughter, Reese, who is her niece, right? Courtney's niece, just goes missing. And, you know, it's like, the idea is like, well, you know, years ago, Kylie went missing, and now Reese has gone missing. And so they connect with Kylie's parents, and Kylie's parents start helping her and their husband Elliot find their niece Reese. And so it's just like, it's a very interesting story about relationships again. What makes it cool is that, again, this is another one of those books where it's just a really good slow burn, and the plot is really well drawn out. And I do genuinely think that it's one of my favorite books this year. I think that the reveal at the end was also very realistic. I think that this could happen to somebody someday. I really hope it doesn't, but it could certainly happen to a family someday that's vacationing. And I'm not going to spoil it at all because I don't want to spoil it. This book is incredible. Go read it. It's one of the best mystery books I've read this year. And, we just started the year for me for reading. So I'm really, really excited to continue this one, or to continue reading. I've decided to read Mary Kubica's entire bibliography after this book. I really want to see what else she's written, because I've heard very good things about her. But particularly, this is also, I should say, as I should mention as well, this is February 2026's book of the month. So I would recommend this very, very well. Go ahead and get yourself a copy. It's really good, for sure. All right, and then next, I read something that I had on my list for years and years and years, and I finally got it done. This is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This was one of the best classic mysteries I've read, probably ever. I think that this one was insanely good. And according to something I read, I think that this is the book that got Agatha Christie famous. I think this is the book that got her on the map for mystery writing, and I can see why, for sure. It's a really interesting book. It's one of the most influential, genre-defining crime novels of all time. That's what I read somewhere. Apparently, this is like one of the biggest inspirations for mystery writers ever. So I would strongly recommend you pick this up, because what's funny is when you read this, you'll realize that there's so much of this book in every other mystery book out there. And it's so well done. I strongly recommend this. I can't recommend this enough. So this is the first time that Poirot is not with Captain Hastings. So he's actually retired now. Both of them are retired. So Poirot is retired, and Captain Hastings went to live out in Argentina, of all places. And so he doesn't have Hastings to kind of help him with this. But basically, what happens is, as you can probably imagine by the title, Roger Ackroyd gets murdered. Now, what makes this such an interesting book is that Roger Ackroyd is actually a very close friend of Poirot. He moved to this small town. I don't remember where it is. Let me look at my notes here. I think it's in the UK, but I can't remember. I think it's in the UK. I can't find it right now. But it's basically this very small village where Hercule Poirot buys a little condo and decides to become a gardener and just live the rest of his life in quiet peace without being famous or well-known. And so, even so much so that he's completely changed his name to something else. I forget what it is, but I think it's like something ridiculous. But you read and then you go like, oh god, this is so funny. So he goes to do that, and then Roger Ackroyd gets murdered by somebody. They don't know who, but they suspect it's his son, because Roger Ackroyd's son takes all the money and the estate. So immediately he's suspected of the murder, and he's also nowhere to be found in this whole book, which we later find out why. But basically, he's nowhere to be found, and he's supposed to take all of the estate and the money. So immediately, of course, it moves directly to all the accusations go right to him. He's stabbed to death in an armchair inside his study. And again, what makes this interesting is that the study is locked from the inside, and the window is locked from the inside. So it's another one of those situations again where like it's just like Mysterious Affairs at Styles, where it's like, how did the killer get in? Where did he get in? Why did he murder him? And I say he genuinely because, like, what's it called? I just use he when I don't want to make a specific gender, I guess you could say, but they, I guess you could say, is a better term for the killer. They, I guess. But I'm going to probably say he out of habit. So don't think, if I say he, don't think that, like, it may or may not be a man or a woman that murdered Roger Ackroyd or any of the people that I talk about in these murder books, right? He is just a general term I use. But anyway, what makes this book so different and unique is that, again, this book basically changed mystery fiction forever with these like huge legendary plot twists in the book. I mean, there's a huge plot twist at the end that makes complete sense, is mapped out incredibly well, and changes the entire premise of the book by the end. And you just feel so bad for Poirot at the end because he feels stumped for the whole mystery until the end. And it's crazy. I've never seen Hercule Poirot baffled by something until this book. This is the first time. And so it's just generally, I cannot emphasize enough how incredible this book is. I strongly recommend that if you do like mystery novels and you have a little bit of patience for the 1920s writing style, definitely pick up this book without question. I strongly recommend it. It's Not Her was like my favorite, but this one is like a fundamental aspect of why mystery novels are the way they are today. So like definitely pick this up because you just want to know, right? Like what was good and what wasn't, I guess. All right, so then the next book I read was, I think, incredible. This one was called Recursion by Blake Crouch. For those of you who don't know Blake Crouch is a science fiction writer. And this was my first sci-fi book in a very, very long time. And I decided to branch out to a sci-fi book club as well because I wanted to just kind of read more sci-fi and see what it's about. I might shock you with this, and I think I'm going to make a very bold statement here saying this, but I think this might be the best book I've ever read. And I really mean that. I know I just talked and raved and ranted about the other two, but this one was such a mindfuck. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. It was one of the most interesting books I've ever read. I can't think of another book that I've ever read that is this interesting. It's not necessarily original. I've seen this kind of stuff before in science fiction, but it's really interesting. Blake Crouch likes to play with the idea of time and how time is represented, whether it be on a timeline or linear or not. So it's very interesting. This book was genuinely mind-bending. It was very interesting. It's basically about traditional, it's like rather than relying on like traditional physical time machines, the story introduces this like interesting technology where this main character, Helen is her name, is trying to map out memories for people with Alzheimer's. So that way they don't forget their memories, or if they do forget, they can just play them back. So they're trying to map out these memories. And basically what ends up happening is that somebody accidentally dies in this memory machine she's created. Accidentally, this allows people to alter the past by re-entering their own memories. But what makes this one different than those kinds of books is that you don't go back in time as the same age. You're not like teleporting. You're going back in time to your formal self. So let's say, for instance, that you are 45 years old, right? And you regret doing something in your 20s, say 21, right? A decision you made that you should have made, and you think it's affected your entire life up to that point. This memory machine, you can kill yourself in this memory machine, according to the book, and it releases this chemical in your brain called DMT. For those of you who don't know what that is a chemical that allows you to dream. It is a natural chemical that your brain releases while you're sleeping so that you can... We don't really even know why it exists. We think it's really genuinely because the brain wants you to think of something while you're sleeping. So it gives you the ability to dream with this chemical called DMT. And what's interesting about it is that when you die, right before you die, your brain releases a massive amount of DMT, almost like a, okay, this is it, I'm giving up kind of thing. And we don't know why it happens, but we think that the reason why is because it's genuinely the body's way of saying, here, have a less painful death. than just sitting there thinking of nothing and waiting for blackness. Like, here is a bunch of thoughts and memories. That's what we think in the real world today, that is what it is. But we don't actually know. And the interesting thing about recursion is that they use that chemical to travel back in time. And of course, what do you think happens? Someone discovers it, someone releases a machine and abuses it, and the next thing you know, everyone in the world is affected by it. And what's interesting is that when you go back in time in the machine and you get to the timeline, you say, like, so for instance, like, you're 45, again, we're talking about this, you're 45, you go back to 21, you make the change, and you live your life for the next 20 years again up to 45. When you get to the point when you're 45, when you enter the machine, the exact moment, the exact time, date, whatever, all of your memories from the previous timeline that you altered, which is now called dead memories, they literally snap to your brain like this in a millisecond, and you remember everything from your previous timeline, and it's very painful. Anybody at all who's affected by this gets those memories. And so it's very interesting. Blake Crouch looks at time instead of like a linear. We look personally in our reality, we look at time as like one straight line, right? We look at it as like past has happened, present is here, future is ahead of us, right? Blake doesn't look at it that way. He uses this book to introduce this concept that time is actually in a grid, past, present, and future, of so many different types of timelines and decisions. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously, and you can jump around between them if you find the ability to. It's called, obviously, the fourth dimension, right? But it's a very interesting concept. It's a fascinating book about Barry and Helena's relationship. Barry is the other main character who is grieving the loss of her daughter from like 15 years ago. And he's working for the FBI, and basically he is upended by this false memories. They call it false memory syndrome, when the timelines converge and your memories snap together. It's very, very interesting. I could not recommend this book enough. If you like science fiction and you like mind-bending stuff, it's not hard to follow. Blake does a very good job of pacing this for you and explaining everything in vivid detail. So I would recommend this even to somebody who doesn't like complex books. This is genuinely possibly the best book I've ever read. And I'm really excited because Netflix is making a show on this book, and I'm so excited to watch it. I think it's going to be great. I think this is the whole entire time I was reading this, I was like, God, this is perfect for a TV show. So I really think this will be really good. I can't wait. All right, I know this is a long video, but we are getting toward the end of it now. I'm on the last book that I've read for this month, and I'm also going to just show you the first book that I'm reading for June, which is not going to be part of this video, but I am just going to show you a little preview of it. But basically, I went ahead and read this book called No Strangers Here by Carleen O'Connor. And I'm just looking up my notes here for a second here, but this is the book here. And it's a 2022 novel, and I hate to be like this, but I didn't end the month very well. Unfortunately, I did not like this book. It was not good. I have a bookmark in it because I know it says Vietnam. That's really weird. It's the bookmark is actually part of my, you can't really see it, but it's a description of like what I get. Coffee shipped to me from all over the world. I have a subscription from Atlas Coffee Company is the name of it, or Atlas Coffee Club, and they ship beans from all over the world. They're fresh and they're really, really good. Not sponsored, by the way. And I just used it as a bookmark placeholder in case I do decide to finish this someday. But basically, I got about halfway through it, and I just couldn't read it. It just wasn't good. It's boring as heck, and the person who read the audiobook did not do it well. It was really not a good performance. So I don't recommend this book personally. It was basically about the body of this guy named Johnny O'Reilly, is his name, was discovered on a Irish rocky shore, and the corpse was surrounded by exactly, and I find this kind of funny, 69 black stones arranged to spell out the word Last Dance, which Last Dance is referencing a horse that was a racing horse, that was the most famous racing horse in Ireland that Johnny O'Reilly accidentally ran over. So it's one of the things that is very interesting. He killed a horse that was beloved by the town. Everyone hated him after that. And then years later, he was killed by somebody with those stones around his body. Now, interesting, this book takes place between the perspective of a bunch of different people, but I think what made this book so boring, it just didn't develop. The first half of the book was just like the bunch of different perspectives of different people, and it didn't really progress the plot very well. I think that it's very interesting that, you know, O'Reilly's widow publicly accuses her parents of the murder. I do think that one's very interesting. Her parents, she hates her parents, and basically her mother, who is a local tarot card reader, was the last person to have seen the victim alive, which is why it's like so interesting that she decided to accuse her mother. But the father is also a town vet, and the thing that makes the plot twist is that the syringe that was used to kill the person was from that vet, so, or that veterinarian clinic. So, and then what makes this also very interesting as well is that her father, who runs the clinic, is rapidly slipping into this really awful case of dementia, so he's forgetting stuff. And so it's like, it's very interesting in that perspective, but the way that Carleen develops the book just didn't hit with me. I don't know if it's just me or if it's her writing style. I just didn't really like it. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get into it. I read about half of it and I was bored out of my mind. So I think that if you want to try it yourself, you can. But, you know, it sucks because I bought this book 2 years ago because the setting, Ireland in particular, is what got me so interested in this book. And I just didn't like it. I don't know. I just didn't like it. Oh, I almost forgot one book. Completely forgot. Sorry about that. Right after Recursion, I did read this book called On a Quiet Street by Serafina Novaglass is her name. And that one was a very interesting one. Again, just consulting my notes here. What makes Serafina so interesting is her writing style was strange. It was a very interesting writing style in the sense of like it was normal, but like the way that she plotted it out was kind of weird. But it did come out really, really well. I almost put this book down because I just came off of Recursion, which was like the best book I've ever read. And I went to this one, so I already felt bad about the book that was going to be the next book after Recursion because I knew that it wasn't going to be as good. The bar had been set so high with Recursion. And On a Quiet Street started rough. It was not a good book for the first half. I did not like it. It was one of those weird, interesting, it's a domestic psychological thriller is what it's classified as. And it's set in Brighton Hills, which is this luxury gated community that is actually a real community in Oregon. It basically, on a quiet street, everything looks normal. But then there's this one person who is very, very conservative, very, very, not conservative in the sense of like, you know, Democrat versus Republican. I'm talking about conservative and like that she keeps to herself quite a lot. Or I should, maybe the word is reserved is a better word. And it's told for the first person perspective of 3 different people on that street. And basically One of them is dealing with the death of her son. The other one is dealing with a husband who is cheating on her. And the other one is dealing with a domestically abusive relationship. So it's a very fascinating novel because it puts these three people on the same street, and everything looks fine on like the street side of things, but when you go into the houses, you start to see the drama. And so what's interesting about this book is that the first half almost lost me. I couldn't get through it. It was just these three women complaining about their lives. And I was like thinking to myself, like, oh man, this is the kind of book that I did not sign up for. It's just this one woman has her husband cheating on her, and she hires this neighbor who's also dealing with the grief of her lost son to spy on her husband and catch him. Speaking of which, and that's not a spoiler, he's caught many times in the book. But then both of them come together with this third person who's dealing with a domestic abuse relationship to a point where, you know, the husband of this other woman who's an immigrant is being spied on by her husband through ring cameras across the house, and she can't leave the house, and she has a child, and like, oh my god, it's like horrible, the situation. I can't even imagine what I would do in that kind of a situation. It's very interesting how these three women come together, and the second half saves the book because they all come together to get the wife who is in the domestic relationship out of that situation in the most subtle way possible. And it's like the second half really saved it. It was a really incredible finish to a book that I thought was not going to be good. And I now, knowing that, would probably go back and try to reread that at some point and see like, oh, is the first half really as bad as I thought it was, or was it just not there? I really recommend this book. This was very interesting. I gave it a 3 stars out of 5 because of the beginning. I think the second half saved it, but the first half was really tough to get through. What got me through it was the incredible performance by the audiobook. The audiobook was insanely talented. The person who read that was just like, they really hired the right person for it because she does a bunch of different voices. She's a British voice actress, and she does 2 characters in a totally believable American accent, and the other one in the British accent. And it's so good. I strongly recommend, if you're going to read this book, read it with the audiobook. It's really good. All right. And then the final book I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk too much about it because this is going to be my first book for next video for this, is I am reading Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates. I've heard a lot of great things about Darcy Coates. She's a really interesting horror writer, and this book is incredible. I'm starting off this month very strong, let me tell you that right now. And this book takes place in a cursed town in Illinois where there's a serial killer on the loose that has been on the loose for more than 100 years, and technology doesn't really work very well, so they can't rely on like cell phone calls and stuff like that, or like calling the police and stuff like that. And this book basically is about a serial killer who kills his victims or her victims, dismembers them, and then sews them back together with red thread and surrounds the area that the body needs to be discovered in with red thread. It's like the killer wants to be found, or wants to see, they want the bodies to be found. And so the entire book so far is really good because I just got to the part where one of the main characters' sisters is kidnapped by the serial killer that they call the Stitcher. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's so far really good, and I cannot wait to finish this. I'm about halfway done, and I'm so excited for the end. So I'm not going to go too much on this book, but Darcy Coates is someone that's been on my list for a long time, and I'm excited to read this. I'm decided already that I'm going to read her entire bibliography after this book as well. So I'm very excited for the end of this. All right, everyone, so that's the first book of Prism Reads Books, or whatever I said at the beginning. I don't even remember what I said at the beginning. Isn't that funny? That's my ADHD brain for you. You're welcome. I am very excited to continue talking about books with y'all. I think that this will be a fun little series. I'm only going to post a couple of videos a year with this series, but I'm very excited to read it. I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited to read the books with you. You can leave in the comments what you think about these books if you're interested in them. We will be reading, or I will be reading, new books and older books. I also am part of a book club called the Catch-Up Club, so I will have to see what books that club comes up with, and who knows what that's going to be like. So I'm excited. Again, we're going to talk about horror, we're going to talk about mystery detective novels, science fiction. Those are my 3 genres. I might try fantasy again. We'll see. But fantasy has always been a hit or miss for me. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, thanks for clicking on the video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little presentation of the books I've been reading. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.